Becky, you had a question?
I just wanted to make sure that I was, I guess, in the right place. Thank you so much.
Yes, you are.
Thanks.
And just a reminder to all of our board members, we do, by city policy, ask that you have your camera on during the meeting.
April, mine says I cannot start my video because the host has stopped it.
Just a minute here and let me fix that.
That's because we don't want to see you, Nathan.
I was gonna say I wore my nice shirt today and everything.
Well, we haven't officially started yet, so I have a lot of buttons to push on my end. You should be able to now, Brian.
Oh, damn it. You have to see me? You don't want to do that.
Morning, all.
Morning.
I know Ellie was on her way to getting in the meeting. I've got to promote a lot of people to panelists here.
So Nathan, it seems like the CPACE is starting to gain some traction. We're getting a few more deals that might be coming to a conclusion.
Yep, we're closing a CPACE deal in Missoula on the 19th to do some solar paneling on the Hogan Senior Living Center there in Missoula. So that's really cool. But there's probably 20 different renewable energy or energy efficiency projects, green energy projects that I think we'll do in calendar year 2024 across the state. So yeah, I think there's some real momentum behind CPACE, and we've got some great, a couple of good local banks and local lenders that are willing to kind of stand in the gap, you know, and working with national lenders has been kind of difficult because they haven't had a lot of interest in the small Montana projects, but getting a couple of credit unions in Montana educated up to speed has been a game changer, I think, as far as getting some of those clean energy improvements done.
Perfect. Yeah, it just feels like it took a little while to get the momentum, but now it feels like it's coming.
Yes, I hope so.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
And there's
Morning.
Lori. Perfect.
Hi, everyone.
So Brian, just to give you a heads up, Brett did indicate to us that he needed to recuse himself from the from voting on the YWCA application. So we still need 2 more members, I believe. No, 1 more member to join to constitute a quorum.
Okay.
For that application.
And we think we're going to get there.
Both Michael Hotman and Riley Tubbs said that they would be attending. So if you want to move things around a little bit, we can absolutely have the trust fund presentation ahead, or however we need to do it. But I know you need to leave early.
Yeah, just by 11:20-ish.
Okay, okay, then we should be good.
Yeah, we should be good. You know what I might want to do is, while we're waiting here for a few moments, should we just jump into the budget report?
If you would like to, we can absolutely do that. Let me pull that up.
I'm always one of those that show me the money.
And Ellie should be joining us soon. She's been back and forth here.
Yep.
Grabbing some cookies that she brought in to go with her coffee.
Hello, sir.
My assumption is, April, when I'm looking at this fiscal report, does that include, and I think I asked this the other day, does this include the tax increment for November of 2023 and we don't have an estimate on the April of 2024 yet?
This is what was given to us from Sheila, finance director. So I would assume this includes everything that came in November. And we don't have an estimate yet as to what we anticipate April, May.
Okay.
That is everything. Sorry. Hello, everybody. April, can you make me a panelist?
I'm trying to.
It won't let you promote me.
Oh no, I keep saying promote to panelist and Ellie's having some technical difficulties.
Sorry, everyone. I got the staff from YWCA set up, but I can't get myself set up. Sarah, can you shoot me the link that you want me to?
Yeah.
Do that with me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a second.
Sorry, everyone.
Yep.
Well, and we're still waiting for one more member of the TIF board to arrive to constitute a quorum for that application.
Perfect. I might ask Seth, how's your building doing with this cold weather? I mean, this will be the first winter with your new water line and everything else.
It's going quite well. I am just really relieved to get that done. That was a 1/2-inch lead line that went all the way out into the middle of Jackson Street. And that 1/2-inch lead line was serving 6 businesses. And it was rather sketchy. There wasn't a good shut off for it. The curb stop was twisted off under the sidewalk. It was kind of a disaster waiting to happen on a day like today.
Yep.
And so it's really a relief to walk down that nice sidewalk, which before was collapsing into a coal vault. And yeah, it's really a relief to have that done.
You know what happens when it gets 30 below. That's exactly when you blow a line and have to repair everything in the middle of the streets and have water running and freezing and
Yeah, and especially with no way to shut it off, I could just have this scenario in my mind with the ground freezing.
Yep.
Say, Brian, I have a question on the second page of that budget.
Okay.
The Cruz Avenue partnership, I think, was listed twice. Is that right? Or has that been changed from what I was looking at? Oh yeah, it's in the 22 and the 23 budget. Was that just
So the way that Sheila did this report, it started in fiscal year 22 and it carried over to fiscal year 23.
As long as they don't abuse it.
So as far as I know, that's why she did that, but it's the same project, same amount. So
okay?
With the governing body.
All right,
Perfect.
thank you.
Thank you, Chris. You're welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Tim, how are you?
I'm good, April. Just plugging away.
Manager Burton stuffed in to see Director Brink, so
There we go.
everybody has to go through this office. Hopefully we'll get Ellie here in just a second.
Thank you.
Brian, do you have the phone number of Riley, or I can't remember who said the other person who could
We do have their numbers and we can give them a quick call. So Ellie is on now, so I will let Ellie take over.
Perfect.
And I will give them both a quick call.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So Ellie, are you on?
Sorry, I was chatting and muted. I'm so sorry. To our new members, hello, welcome. I'm very sorry. It's usually not this haphazard, but Happy New Year, everyone. Technical issues. April, were you trying to get in touch with Jen and other Y representatives?
Jen is on.
She is on because
Becky is also on. They are under attendees,
brilliant.
not panelists.
Okay.
and we'll allow them to unmute when time comes. But I am going to give both Michael and Briley a call because neither of them have entered the meeting.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
no worries. Okay. Well, I guess otherwise we can get started. Chair Obert, could you get me up to speed as far as what you guys have discussed thus far? I apologize for my delay in joining.
We've been chatting about other things and how Seth will not be breaking his water line in the middle of 30-degree below zero weather this tomorrow. So those are things we were talking about. I did want to ask a bit more about Sheila with our budget report. Do we know that this has the November taxes?
It does.
It does.
It does.
Okay. Looking at the state website, I was assuming we were going to see a bit more this year than what we have.
So this is also based on taxes paid. So if there's anybody out there still lingering or contesting or otherwise.
Okay. That could be where our issues are at this point. Okay. I think that was the first thing. And then in our agenda, I don't know if I'm wondering, and if we kind of went through the budget report, I'm wondering if we shouldn't jump into the housing trust fund while we're waiting for the quorum so we could actually look at the YWCA application.
Well, I'm sure. Yes. Yeah, I know you're probably right. We can do that. And would you be able to do that? And if needed, we can press pause on your presentation to allow Jen and Becky to share their information.
Yep. I can totally do that.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Ann.
Did you guys already do introductions as well?
Oh, no, we haven't.
Sorry,
yeah.
Benji is new and I don't want, and Brett's new, so.
Shall we do that? What I would do is introduce myself, Brian Oberts. I'm the Executive Director of Montana Business Assistance Connection, the Economic Development Agency.
My name is Nathan Bilyeu, and I'm a public finance attorney at Jackson Merwin Grant and a building owner here in the Rodney Street District.
Hi, I'm Lori Lattis, and I'm the Executive Director of Rocky Mountain Development Council, which is located at the south end of the Walking Mall in the neighborhood center.
Yep.
My name is Brett Charles. This is my second meeting, so I'm fairly new. But work for I'm an architect for SMA Architecture and Design.
Seth Brandenberger, I'm the Business Improvement District rep and a building owner downtown.
So Benji, we'll have you introduce yourself.
So I'm Benji Cosgrove. I'm the new executive director at the Myrna Loy. We are in the old county jail here on 15 North Ewing Street, right across from the courthouse. And I'm happy to be here, happy to help, and excited to learn more about this whole organization.
Excellent. Thank you, Benji.
Thanks for joining, Benji, and congratulations on your promotion. I'm sure you'll do great things. I am Ellie Rea. I'm the senior planner with the City of Helena.
And do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, thank you. I was waiting in case you wanted to go first. Hi, everybody. Ann Pichette. I am the housing coordinator for the City of Helena.
And I am April Sparks, admin for the Community Development Department here for the City of Helena. And just to let you know, Brian, I did get a hold of Riley, and he said he was about 5 minutes out from joining the meeting. So cross our fingers, we have no issues, and we'll have our quorum.
Excellent. Ann, do you want to take it away?
Sure, I can do that real fast, and then April, if you'll just give me a heads up when he pops on.
Absolutely.
And I'll pause. Okay, can everybody see the slideshow?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So thank you so much for letting me join you all today. I will make this relatively quick and painless for all of you. But the slides are available on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund website with the City of Helena, and I know April will get that link out to all of you. I just thought it might be a great opportunity for all of you who might not know about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund here at the city to have a little information in case some of you might also be interested when we open up the next cycle. So just a quick overview. The City Commission set aside funding for this through a resolution to support the expanding supply of housing for lower income senior citizens, persons with disabilities, homeless, and others with special needs. The city did receive an application previously for one project that was approved to move forward for a loan. So there's currently approximately $1 million left in the fund right now. And there's also 100,000 set aside for emergency housing needs. And typically each year, the City Commission has set aside $100,000 from their general budget for this. And another set of funding that goes into the trust fund is what will be the principal and interest payments once the loans are actually opened, building starts, and getting paid back. And it was started with proceeds from the sale of some city property. So just a little bit of background. The main focus is to really make sure that there's housing for individuals in our community who are making up to 80% of the area median income. As you'll see there on the slide, there is an exception to potentially go up to 120% for a developer who's interested in requesting that. Pretty simple 5-to-1 match. We do have some options for a smaller match from the developer if it's shelter or temporary housing projects. And the thing that might be that some of you may know, but some of you as new members may not know, is that within each of the TIF districts, there's a 10% set aside specifically for housing related projects within each of the districts. So 10% of those.
Riley is now on the meeting.
Perfect.
So if you want to finish up with this slide, we can do that, and then we'll pop over to the application.
Perfect. I'm done with this slide.
Excellent. Thank you, Ann. If you don't mind, we'll jump in since we have Riley and for our business. Riley, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you. Sorry about being late, guys.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Riley Tubbs, 10 Mile Creek Brewery.
Perfect. And Benji's now on, our new member. So, Ellie, do you want to start this off and then have the representatives for YWCA carry forward, or do you want them just to take this forward now?
I'm actually going to open it up to them, and I'm going to, let's see, I have the authority.
I've already allowed Jen and Becky.
Oh, you did?
To speak.
Okay, so Jen, Becky, whomever wishes to speak, please feel free to unmute. It looks like Jen's already unmuted. So Jen, please feel free to kick things off.
Hi there, my name is Jen Gursky, and I'm the Executive Director of YWCA Helena. I am joined by Denise King, who is our new Operations Director as of November, who really was the lead on this application. Just quick background. Most of it is in the application itself, but we are working on an exterior project for the building located at 501 North Park. And that exterior project encompasses working on the windows that haven't been touched for a century. So the windows are single pane wood that have a double sash. That window project was initiated a number of years ago and was really the key component to some CDBG funding that we applied through for this from the CV fund. So if you remember, CDBG CV was COVID era. We were able to successfully get nearly there with the complete exterior renovation with that grant. However, it was recommended by our architects, and I'll let Becky and Denise chat about this a little bit more, that for energy efficiency and really beautification, that we add historically accurate storm windows to every window to that single pane, adding some energy efficiency, obviously, but by adding a film. Then the last thing I think that we note in this application is that I don't know when the last time the paint on the building has been touched. Exterior, obviously, there is some repair, like soffit and trim work that we need to do. And a lot of the paint is just currently peeling. So we have had great success in the last couple of years marking some stuff off from our building maintenance report. This was a building maintenance report and prioritization report that I inherited. And we have slowly been ticking it off. One of them was the leaky porch on the outside. So we, River Masonry was awesome and donated all of their labor. We got that done last winter. Sleeping Giant Engineering then came in with some water movement, I guess, away from the building to protect, fix a bulging wall from that brickwork. And so we're working on really shoring up this building that's a century old in the district, really prepping it for another century of service. Becky or Denise, do you want to talk about the technical?
Good morning, everyone. This is Denise King. So it's been a pleasure working on this grant. It's a simple project that we're looking for, simple, and it's worthwhile in my opinion. So thank you for considering this application for TIF funding. As Jen had mentioned, that the building is from 1918 and the windows are the original to the building. And once again, a lot of them don't operate, broken glass, and the thermal protection is pretty much gone. So it's 132 windows that will need to have refurbishment. We've been in communication with the Montana State Historic Preservation Office, and they have concurred with the project. We're requesting $118,160 and 22 cents, and we will have for the project on the window we have a private donor of $10,000. So 118,000 requesting for the window exterior project. What else would you like for us to share?
Do you have a construction quote?
So this is Becky with SMA Architecture, and I am speaking on behalf of the YWCA for this question, if that's okay, Seth. We do not have a construction quote yet. The project is being publicly bid and has not advertised yet because we are trying to collect these last bits of funds. And so we do not have a official quote yet from anybody, but that will be our next step once we understand our budget a bit more definitively.
So Becky, this is Nathan Bilyeu, one of the board members. Question I had then, so if the bids come in high, is this the kind of thing where you scale back the project, but you still go forward with the project? Is like the question I was having, if we commit the full 118,000 ask, the bids come in high. Is this money still going to be put to beneficial use? You're going to do 80% of it, or is it a hold off and try again in a different construction environment? Is there sort of a plan for how to manage bids in excess of this budget?
Absolutely. So that's a great question, Nathan. And we do have alternates set up in our bid documents. So that means that we could address the basement, for instance, has a number of that 134 windows, right? And so what we've got set up in the bid documents is for a separate bid for that portion of the building in order to control the cost for the project. So we our plan currently is to do as much as we can of the building, but use the alternates in order to understand our budget and our bids. So just to reiterate, we have the basement as a bid alternate. If bids come in high, we would address as much as the building as we could, and then hold off on a portion if needed for budget reasons. So I would say the project would go forward regardless. It's just a matter of how far we can get with our budget.
I would
Great.
also say, this is Jen, Executive Director, that we have been fundraising for building maintenance solidly for about 2 years. The board and I are committed to finishing the exterior project and have been writing funds for some of those capital improvements. So for instance, we're putting in an ADA bathroom, and that's on the inside, right? But we have been actively pursuing capital funds for this project and a parallel partnering project for the inside basement renovation. And I have no doubt that this will be completed and funded.
Great. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions?
This is Seth. Can you tell me what percent of the total estimate are the alternates?
Seth, this is Becky again with SMA. I do not have that number specifically prepped, but I could get it to you outside this meeting if that is a possibility. Right now, the budget reflected in what's on your screen here is all the windows put together. So generally it would be to separate out the basement, for instance, it would be about a quarter of the windows.
Okay,
If that is
thank
helpful
you.
for some napkin math. Yep.
Any other questions?
I have one other question, and that is, can this project qualify for part of the 10% low income housing from the TIF funding?
Ellie or Ann?
I'm happy to jump in. So there is, Seth, what I would say, I think that this is just a matter of capital stacking, and I will defer to Jen, but I think the anticipated path forward with this is that they might be seeking some of those funds for the second phase for the basement renovations, the interior work. Especially since there isn't a cycle available right now, and they're trying to get this funding for this discrete aspect for these exterior improvements together so that they can get moving on the construction activities this summer.
Yeah, Ellie, this is Jen. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. We have basically a 3-year phase for finishing. So the porch project that I mentioned before was over a couple of decades. That porch that's on Placer was leaking into our basement. So our number one priority was fix that leak, figure that out, so then we can mitigate water infiltration into that brickwork on the side of the building. The next phase would be to do this exterior, right? So windows, if we are to do we are doing movement into that basement remodel, we want that exterior shored up so that the interior work is protected. Basically by these renovations that we're proposing. So yes, and maybe not this round.
And another thing to add to that, Seth, and I know a little too much to be dangerous because I've been working with Jen and her team since the outset of applying for the CDBG CV funds through the state. But Jen and her team are ideally going to be seeking CDBG public and community facility dollars to help with some of the basement work. With that, there is a match requirement, which would necessitate trying to put in at that time for soft funds like we have available through the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, should they be available at the time. That program is, and we'll talk about more, is really available on a first come, first served basis for eligible applicants. So the funds might be expended before Jen could even proceed to ask for a request. But, ooh, okay, there we go. There's the agenda. Anyway.
Excellent. Any more questions? And if not, we might actually have Mike introduce himself. And thank you for jumping on.
I will try my best here. I'm having all sorts of computer issues at work here. So I'm Mike Hopman. I've lived on Rodney Street for about 8 years now. All my jobs, I work for probation at the state and probation and parole currently. All my jobs in the last 10 years have been on Rodney Street. So that was kind of my purpose for coming here, is I know the downtown area. I love the unique characteristics of the downtown area. And, you know, I've had the pleasure of working with the YWCA for probation and parole for quite a while now. So most of the businesses I have some connection to down in this area. But I wanted to try to get something that I could help the Rodney Street and the downtown area with, and this came available, and it's stuff that I have prior experience with. So it's a pleasure to meet you all. I'm still figuring out how this works and exactly what we're doing. So I was able to look over this application form, and you know, obviously I love everything the Y does for the community, and it definitely helps me in my career. So and it definitely needs an update here. So I appreciate all your guys' time. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer anything for you.
Perfect. Any additional questions from the voting board? Lori or Riley, anything that you would like to bring up? Perfect. So going to Ellie and April, does this qualify for our TIF applications, I'm assuming?
Yes, Brian, it does.
Yes, it does. And we do have the type of money that they are requesting.
Yeah, April, can you scroll back to where you were actually a couple pages prior? Not here. You were flipping through eligible activities and project goals and objectives of the district.
Right here.
Next page, I think. Well, so historic preservation, if you go back to that previous page, I'm sorry, April. Historic preservation is item G here for consideration. If you go down a couple more pages, I'll tell you when to stop, April. Okay, so this page lists out the goals and objectives, obviously, from the plan. This first page is just the ones that were discretely for the initial downtown portion of the project, which includes this property. Downtown portion of the URD, I should say, from the URD plan. But this does speak to and gives us the ability to work on historic facade improvements, which this board has historically recommended for funding to the commission. So that's what Jen and we're leaning on here.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question. Do we know how long is it going to take for this project to be completed? I saw that it's hoping to be done sometime in 2024, but is there any clarification on how long this is going to take to actually get these remodels done?
Becky,
yeah, this is Jen. Yes, I mean, with construction projects, it's always hope with quotation marks, right?
Sure.
This has been an ongoing project. When CDBG CV funds were awarded, I will say that we have to spend those funds by December 31 of 2024.
Okay.
So this project and this funding coincides, like they really have to go together with how the funding is working. So it is more than a hope, but quite honestly, if this funding is approved, we hope to get out our RFPs ASAP.
Okay, and is there any expectations? I know how old that building is. Is there any expectations of any complications with, you know, asbestos or any kind of, I saw the lead notes in there. Is there any other kind of things that you are possibly may find when you start this project?
Yeah, good question. We've actually done materials testing already and did not find asbestos, oddly, right?
Yeah.
But yes, there is lead paint, and we have been working with Commerce as their representation into HUD with what our requirements are for the CV funding, because the CDBG CV funding was also a blend of HUD requirements, because this is technically was a housing project for that. So we had to blend in HUD requirements. At this point, we are a per unit cost below the marker where HUD requires abatement. And our plan is to then remediate, and that is about a $400,000 difference to this project.
Okay.
And that, yeah, so the answer is yes. I think that we've done our due diligence and addressing some of those issues. We initially thought construction was going to happen last summer. It did not, because lead paint was found and we were really trying to scramble to find answers and funding. Eventually we found funding that turned out that it was just not feasible for us to take out a full loan for what that price tag would be. So we have our answers into Commerce, and they have checked in also with EPA and HUD on those requirements. So
Okay.
I feel pretty solid that this is a project fully moving forward.
Gotcha. What will happen with the residents during this time?
Yeah. So part of the nice thing with, well, you can consider it nice or pain, but the nice thing with having federal funding, especially through HUD, is that we had to come up with a plan for that. So we think that 2 or 3 windows can be done at a time. So part of this project is obviously scaffolding up, which is why we wanted to do the window repair and the painting all together to kind of save expenses on that. But we have a plan that folks in the house are, nobody's going to be displaced. We will probably leave 2 rooms fallow so that they think that each window will take 3 days. So if we do three windows, each window is about, or there might be 2 windows per unit. Typically there's 1. Each of those windows will take 3 days, and we think that we will be able to pack up that entire room, because also we have to do the lead part of it. So the room has to be packed up. Sure. Our plan is to rent a trailer for items so that things can be stored in there while we work on the lead paint part. We will have rooms fallow in the shelter so that folks can just be moved in there, and those are the only rooms that we will use. And then the window work will be complete. Folks can move in the tubs, and then the next set of 3. So
Gotcha.
Yeah, good questions.
Is there any concern with the residents? I mean, you're busting up a bunch of lead paint here, and then I know there's a bunch of kids and things there. Is there any concern or is any thought been given to what, you know, the health issue with that?
Yeah, good question. So we are, number 1, we are a HUD recipient of home grant funds. So everybody has been informed of potential or actual lead-based paint. So that's number 1, right? So as they move in. Number 2, as the project continues, we were mandated with this funding from HUD to notify folks of the work. So number 1, to your prior question, number 1 is that nobody would be displaced. Okay. Number 2 is what the scope of the work is, right? So we have talked around what that scope of project would look like, both on the inside and outside of disturbing lead paint, and have described that to our residents. The other thing, and Mike, as you know, like the same population might not be here this summer, even for that construction, right? So the pretty rapid movement of when folks move in and out of our house means that we're really trying to have those meetings quarterly. But as soon as we put together and can really pull a trigger on the construction, get out the RFP, start thinking about what that construction timeline in the summer, we have a plan. It's just it's a point of notifying. So to answer your question, that was the more in-depth answer, but to answer your question, no, we have not heard any concerns about the construction work in general. And there is an opportunity, the residents of our house every Thursday, doesn't matter what level of programming you're in, have to come to a house meeting. And so every Thursday, we're kind of talking about this coming project and basically say TBD, but no concerns have been raised about that yet from our residents.
Okay, thank you very much for answering the question.
This is SMA. Sorry, I just wanted to jump into a bit of the answer there. Due to how the remediation is required to take place, there will be separation between, you know, as Jen said, the rooms that are being done and the rooms that are still being occupied. And so there should not be any transfer, you know, back and forth there, because that wouldn't be in compliance with all of the things that we have to do with the HUD funding. So
perfect.
So I think allay some concerns there is, you know, per the requirements, there is a plan to mitigate that in place, and keep the project going while keeping folks also in place.
Perfect. Thank you, Becky.
Thanks.
Excellent. Any additional questions? And then if we don't have any, for Ellie and April, for a point of clarity, I do sit on the housing subcommittee for the YWCA. I am aware of the work, but I have not participated in the conversations on this application. So I'm just a point of clarity. If you want me to, I think we have the numbers. I could recuse myself, but I have no financial reward. I have no interaction with the application. So my personal opinion is I could go either way on either voting or not voting.
So we do have 8 members present. 6 constitutes a quorum. So Brian, if you feel more comfortable recusing yourself, you're absolutely welcome to do so. So we have enough members present to still have a quorum of.
So I'm not going to put him on the spot as being an attorney, but I'm going to ask our attorney, do you have any significant issues one way or the other?
No, I don't think this would constitute a conflict. We do have a quorum. We don't, and it's not like we're over applied for our funds right now, right? It's not like we have $300,000 asked for with only 137 to give like we have maybe in some of the past. But so it might not be as contentious, but regardless, if we have a quorum, and there could be even an appearance of impropriety, you may as well recuse if we have a quorum, but.
Perfect.
And we also have Matthew Pettish from the city attorney's office online, if he'd like to give his opinion.
Wonderful.
Yes, this is Matthew. I would agree with the gentleman that just spoke. I think since we do have a quorum, and I would advise to recuse just because there's always that potential for, I guess, scandal, if that makes sense. So.
Yes, Matthew, I prefer to avoid scandal. So as long as everybody is aware of that, I will be recusing myself from this vote. But I would ask for either a motion or some type of action on the application from the YWCA for their window restoration.
I'll make a motion to award $118,160 to the YWCA for this project.
Oh,
Thank you
Seth,
very
did
much.
you want to add that 22 cents?
And 22 cents.
Good. There we go.
I'll second it if need be.
Excellent. Thank you. So we have a first and a second from Seth and then Mike. Do we have any additional questions or comments from the voting board members? If we don't, why don't, in this case, Ellie, I think we could just do a verbal. Would be, I'm assuming, be good enough?
I think so.
Excellent. So all those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody in opposed say nay. Well, it looks like, and I have recused myself. So we have a quorum and we have ayes to move this project forward.
Thanks very much, Brian. And thank you to Jen, Denise, and Becky. I appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you for the advisory board.
Yeah, thank you so much for hearing and considering this proposal. And this is a pretty critical pivot point for us. So thanks for approving it.
So Ellie, just for Jen and Denise and Becky's sake, when do you foresee taking this to City Commission?
Oh, so looking at the calendar as of today, I think the earliest I could get it to the City Commission for them to review would be the meeting on February 26th.
Okay.
It takes some time. I don't think I could get it together in, well, actually, no, I tell a lie. I'm sorry. I will endeavor to get it to the commission on the 12th of February.
That sounds good.
Yes, sorry, I was looking at the wrong date on my calendar. We'll aim for that, Jen.
Ellie, I will be out of country that week, but I have full faith and confidence in Denise and Becky. So I think move forward. I think the 12th is fine.
Perfect.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. With that, do you guys mind repivoting back and asking Anne to come back to the presentation and get continue with that?
We can do that.
Perfect.
Sorry, it would help if I unmuted myself. Can everybody see the slides now? Perfect, thank you. So just to reiterate, these slides are available on the website. April has put the link and instructions in to the chat. So I'm just gonna go kind of high level on some of these, not knowing full level of information you all want, but I'm always available if you have further questions or want more details. So you'll see here, these are the priorities that have been laid out for the trust fund dollars. And one of the main things to think about is prioritizing projects that use other funding sources and don't duplicate existing services that will also have a long-term positive impact for housing. So in many cases, the trust fund funds are the smallest piece of the funding puzzle here for developers and for projects. So just keep that in mind if any of you are talking with people you know who might be interested in applying. It really is about the long-term impact and the ability to provide as many separate projects as possible, not totally different from TIF projects as well, where you want the biggest bang for the buck, as it were. And also that they can be sustained long-term and don't require additional funds from the trust fund, I think are important pieces to recognize as well. And here's some of the eligible applicants and activities kind of broken out different than the other slides were. So it can be nonprofit, for-profit, public organizations who are going to develop, own, or sponsor these eligible activities, which, as I mentioned before, are to improve or support permanent, transitional, or temporary housing. So in the case of the first project, the trust fund funded, it's to be building new units of apartments for rent. This is not one of the programs that individuals are eligible to apply for. So I think that's an important thing to note. And as you'll see here, here's the long list of the eligible uses. But as I mentioned, it's typically kind of the gap financing for projects to do the building or renovation of existing buildings and acquisition. And just so you know, this is a very full slide, but this is from the resolution that established the fund. So that's another good source for anyone who might be interested in applying. So here again are the beneficiaries of this program, but with, you know, as updated as we have. The 2024 numbers don't come out till March, April, May-ish. So just for everyone to have some perspective here, the project guidelines are for individuals who are within that 80% area median income. And just so people have a good idea, in the case of a household of one, that's somebody with an income of $58,000, and a household of four is $83,000. So we are talking people in the community who are working pretty decent jobs, just to kind of keep that in mind. And there is a small section clause that allows for the advisory board and the city commission to approve requests that go up to 120% for the individuals who would be living in these homes. So that is also helpful for anyone who's going to apply. Just a reminder here on the match requirement, it's a 5-to-1 match for the applicant. And just to note, the shelters and temporary housing are eligible for those reductions in match to a 3-to-1, as they're not going to have the same sort of cash return from the rents and sales home to cover those loan payments. This is a loan program, but there are a variety of match options as well to reach that 5-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio. And I'm going to kind of skip over this slide just to mention that there are building standards and accessibility issues that need to be part of any of the plans or applicant. And also important to note the continued affordability time period for any of these projects. So we're really talking about some long-term affordability for our community for any of these projects that move forward. And that's really important for the long-term success of this program. We're talking investments of city and taxpayer dollars that really are going to be sustaining housing solutions long into the future. And the limits here for what a developer applicant could ask for is permanent loans up to $400,000, construction loans up to $1 million, and the minimum interest that they can request in their application would be 1% interest rate. And any of the projects that potentially permanently displaced residents will not be covered. And here there's some discussion. These numbers change about the rent limits. And also there's options for mixed income of these housing units within a project. And so I'm gonna kind of skip through some of these as it's an advisory board similar to your advisory board here with members who serve 3-year terms. The process is that the applications come to the advisory board, and just as applications come to your board, and the board will hear presentations, make their final recommendations to the city commission, and then applicants go before the city commission to request these loan funds. And that's all I have for you. If you have any questions, like I said, slides are available. The board will be meeting here potentially next week, but likely at the end of January. We have some requests coming before us for modifications of an existing project. But the board at that point, when they have their spring meeting, is when they will set the next application cycle. So that's why I didn't give any of you any dates right now. But there will be press releases, information will be on the website. Last year it opened March 1st. So potentially it could be around then, depending on what the board thinks works for timing. Just so everyone knows, we do try to time it so that any kind of decision that comes on the trust fund dollars could potentially be used as information for committed funds when a project is going forward for some of those tax credits, other federal and state funding, so that they have the piece of funding from the local government first in there. So likely it'll be sometime in March that the spring cycle will open and be available. As I mentioned, there's approximately $1 million currently left in that account that's available to be applied for.
Excellent. Thank you, Ann. Any additional questions from members or anybody on the call? So Ann, we do have some applications that have been put in on a previous cycle to this point, or are we still trying to get some money pushed out?
There was one project already approved for $1 million. That was the Twin Creek apartment project that's going out landmark approximation near the bowling alley, that neighborhood there with the bowling alley and the well, slightly more close, I guess, to the auto mall area. So on the east side of town, and that project has grown significantly from when they came to the trust fund for funding. So that's going to be a great opportunity for our community. So after that project has been funded, there's still just under $1 million available for any future projects until those loan funds start being paid back, at which point then there will be more funds to cycle through.
Perfect. Thank you. So we've got a success story going right now.
Just a point of clarification too, with regard to the $1 million that Ann has said is available, that does not include obviously the 10% TIF set asides in each of the 3 TIF districts. So that's additional money available on top of it towards the type of efforts outlined in the guidelines for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Excellent. Any other questions from the board? If not, thank you, Ann, for keeping us attuned on what's going on. Again, those are things which would apply for downtown to our TIF. And Ellie, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, we could be doing facade improvements and things like that that could be layered if a project was in the downtown district, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And so long, again, as it meets the intent of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and aligns with the types of activities proposed in the guidelines. Yeah.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you for pulling this back up. What we haven't done to this point and why we still have a quorum is we have not looked at the minutes yet. Has the board members looked at the minutes to this point? Do you have any questions or comments? If not, I would receive a motion to accept those minutes as presented.
I would move we accept the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Nathan. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Lori. We have a first and second. Do we have any additional questions or comments about the minutes? If not, all of those in favor say aye.
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 And for those against or have an issue, nay. Excellent. So minutes are done.
So, Brian, something that I wanted to bring up and something you might want to consider putting on the next agenda. We need a new vice chair. Chris was the vice chair, and when she had to resign her position on the board, that officer position became vacant.
Yes, we should address that because I may run out in front of a bus one of these days and then you would be all in trouble. So, excellent. So, members, I don't want to be twisting any thumbs, but we need to be thinking about who would be willing to be a vice chair for this board going forward. So between now and our next meeting, Ellie, April and myself, we will start to canvass the members and see who would be interested and then twist the thumbs to see who may want to be a vice chair for this board, correct?
Absolutely, Brian. And just to note, especially for our newer members, this board receives applications for TIF funding twice a year, January and July. That can be changed at any time at your discretion. We don't have to have it just be a biannual process. The Railroad TIF board doesn't work that way. It's up to you guys, but presently that's how things stand. So there may be an opportunity for us to consider an application off cycle. We have made a promise to the BID that we might be doing that for their Portland Blue toilet, potentially, if they can get the necessary approvals for its installation from relevant city departments. So we may meet as early as February, but it's possible we won't meet till July. So whenever we do have our next meeting, at that point, we'll ensure that we have elections of officers on the agenda.
Perfect. And then public comments. Is there any other communications either from the members or to the members?
I had a question, Brian, and maybe Ellie could be the one to give us some feedback. I was noticed just looking at that budget that none of the funds have moved on that Library Square facade project. Do we have an update from them on that?
No, and I'm actually going to ask April if she has an update on that. April, have you by any chance been in touch with Andy about that that effort at all, or has he been in touch with you, I guess I should say?
I contacted Andy last week because I hadn't heard from him. So apparently what happened was they were all set up, had the windows that they needed measured, were working with a vendor, and then the vendor had a medical emergency that sidelined him for about 3 months, and the order was never put in. So they are now working with another vendor. They are going to get, again, things measured and going to get an order for the windows in. But they've been delayed because of that. And we have worked on drafting an extension to their agreement. So that way they have until the end of this calendar year to complete their project. So a lot of what's happened with a lot of the other projects, contractor delays, supply chain issues. So yeah, but I have been trying to keep on top of all of the projects and make sure everyone has enough time to complete their projects. I know the Penwell building, that's another one where Joe has run into issues with contractor delays and things like that. And so we did actually a second extension on his agreement, and he now has until the end of April to complete his project as well. The fire tower restoration, they have had some issues with contractors, etc. And Craig Marr, he had a medical emergency himself and had not signed the agreement. So we executed agreement giving the Parks Department until the end of this calendar year to complete that project as well.
Excellent. Good question, and thank you, Ellie. Brett, so it feels like it's getting better on getting equipment and things, but it still isn't perfect. You being an SMA, world isn't back to where it was, but it's better than it was.
Yeah, I think overall we see that it's improving. It just depends, it's almost like a month to month or week to week thing where it tends to fluctuate. But the demand is still there, so hopefully things start improving a little bit on the horizon, but there still are some outliers that remain issues.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other on the agenda, any other communications or any ideas for agenda for the next time? I know talking with Ellie and with Chris a bit at the city staff, we'd love to do more than potentially just sidewalks and facades. So if there's a way that we can either start to promote or start to think about how do we start to promote bigger and bolder ideas, I know as the chair, I would love to start to make an impact. I think part of it is our limited amount of funds that we have right now make that a little difficult to move the dial. Well, I'd love to move the dial.
I just want to echo that sentiment, Brian, and want to add that we have, since July, there had been other people in the community with property downtown that had reached out just provisionally stating an interest in accessing TIF funding. As you can tell, we didn't receive actual applications from those parties, or in some instances we might have, but they never actually talked to us staff. So my request is to any of you that may be interacting with property owners in the community that have an interest in accessing this funding, in the very first instance, they need to have a conversation with city staff to vet it for eligibility. So please, if you hear rumblings out in the community about those that might want to access this funding, just have them contact us directly and we'll meet with them and talk them through the program.
Perfect. Anything else? Any announcements or meetings of interest that we see that we need to be aware of or we should be aware of?
Guess on the 16th,
Wow.
we're going to have a hearing to talk about updates to the historic demo permit process. So if that's of excitement to anybody, feel free to jump into that.
Yeah. If not, is there anything else for the good of the order? Try to keep it to an hour then. Excellent. Would anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you,
I'll
Lori.
second.
Yeah.
Second.
Excellent, everybody. Thank you for your time and try to stay warm. Looks like it's going to be a cold one.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you,
Take care,
everyone.
Bye
everybody.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for allowing me to be part of this. I appreciate it.